Hey there, this is Eric Teekman. I am a business consultant here with ProVal Tech. Today we are going to go over the next section, if you will, of agreements, so agreements part two, and why it's important to understand how to apply and utilize these agreements. So please click the like and subscribe button at the bottom the right corner so you never have to miss out on another video. So let's get into it. So in our last video, we went through the agreement types. So we have our agreement types here that we kind of worked on and we cleaned up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually apply that to a company and see it in action. So we're going to go in here to our company, just one of our test companies that we have set up. We're going to click onto our agreements tab and we're going to click the plus icon and we're going to apply our agreement here. Now, the great thing about doing the agreement setup is that a lot of the settings that we need are already going to be preset by simply selecting the agreement type. So we're going to choose our managed services agreement. As you'll notice, it pulls in our unlimited hours. It has our billing cycle of monthly. We have all of the things that we didn't actually set because we're going to use the system defaults. Now I'm going to name my agreement. And again, your naming convention can be anything that works. That's certainly something that it helps as an identifier, but it is always separated out by company. Um, So we're going to name our agreement, and then what we're going to do is on this particular agreement, we're going to have a no end date. Now, a couple little notes. What happens is if you have an end date, the agreement will literally stop on that day. With no end date, the agreement will continue to use, to continue to bill. It's not necessarily tied to your contract. So depending on if you are a hard and fast contract, when the contract's done, we're done, or if it rolls over into a month to my month or it automatically renews, you might want to consider using the no end date. So now what we're going to do is we're simply going to hit save. This is going to unlock some other features as we've applied this to our customer and our company. Now, a couple of things just to take a note of, just to make sure that everything is set up. What we did actually do is I added a couple of default work types that also make things a little bit easier in terms of just a high level. So number one is we added an out of scope work type. We made this not covered so that anytime a technician uses out of scope, it will automatically not be covered by the agreement. And we also added in a scripting, monitoring, or RMM, so any type of remote monitoring service. We want that to be covered, and we're keeping that separate so that we can have a little bit of granularity from a reporting standpoint. So we wouldn't see all of that, but anything from Automate, RMM, any of those tools can use this work type as their recording time against those tickets. Now you'll also notice here that we defaulted this so that it's automatically going to be attached when we open up that ticket. So what that looks like when we go into our service board, we're going to actually, let's do it this way. We'll do a new service ticket. And you'll notice that we have this on the support department. So what we need to do is when this opens up for a new service ticket, we just need to make sure that we are going to choose our proper company. We're going to say test ticket. And then we want to make sure that it is on, I think it's that help desk ticket here. Oh, so I guess it will be the, there it is, the test board. So on that test board, you'll notice that this agreement automatically attached. We also have this set, so I'm going to just set a workstation on there as well. Change this from new just so it doesn't send anything out. We'll just say in progress, and then we'll hit save on here. So you notice that the ticket automatically attached, and you also saw that there is some granularity. Now, little tip trick here if you need to. What you can also do is if you ever need to see the parameters of that agreement or anything for that matter underlined in here, when we click this, it's going to take us right back to that agreement inside of here. So the way this is set up right now is that we have covered work roles and covered work types. Now, a common scenario that I've seen over the years is that people will come in here and they'll set their bill time to be do not bill or no charge. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to make sure that time is billable because we want it to be billed to the agreement. So technically, if I'm charging $2,000 a month for the agreement, I am billing them for their time and their coverage. It's just not being billed directly by the time, it's being billed by that blanket charge. So if we go back to our service ticket, what we want to do is kind of just see a little bit of that in action. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to just kind of rearrange a couple things in here real quick just to make it easier for us to put some time and assign things. So I'm going to assign myself to this ticket. So now that I'm on here, perfect. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of time on here. So when I come in here and I add my time in, we've got our remote billable. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this was 2 hours worth of time. Um, type in some test notes in there, right? And then we're going to hit, or actually make my work role. I want to make sure that's technician so that it's an actual charge behind that. And then I'm going to hit save and closed on here. And then to compare it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to then add some more time to this. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my work type to be something that is out of scope, right? So we're going to say out of scope, and we're going to say 1.5 hours of out of scope, not covered work. So the reason that I'm doing this is so we can see the functionality of the agreement. So now at this point, if I go back, click on that agreement line word that I did earlier, it's going to take us back to the agreement. Now what we do is we see up here, we see time. We see one service ticket that has the agreement attached, and we see time. Now, what I'm looking for in here to kind of show and demonstrate what this does is billable hours fall under the app hours. And since it was covered, you'll see that there's a number which matches this app hours. The app hours on our out of scope, the 1.5 hours, is not covered by this agreement. So you'll notice that the app hours here is at 0.00, meaning that this 1.5 hours at a rate of $95 is going to bill the client directly, whereas the remote work that we did was actually covered. Now, another little cheat sheet, if you will, to see is going to be coming in here. It's a little informational pop-out box, shows you check boxes all the way down, which means, hey, all of the work in here was covered. We're good to go. Now on here, we're going to see our work type is not covered, right? So we have a big X next to that, which means that this particular time entry was not covered. So if we went down to invoicing after we close this ticket, it would actually appear in there. So the basic premise is to make sure that we have certain things that are covered and not, bottom line being all of that billed. Now, this is a monthly agreement. Now, what this does and the way we've set this up so far is that this is going to cover the time, cover the work that's being done. Now, what we don't have on here is we're not actually charging the client yet. Now, there's a couple different options. One is you can put an amount in here, so we could say that it's $2,000 a month, right? And we can make it really simple. Now, what's going to happen is they're getting an invoice that says monthly service agreement, $2,000. There's no more information. There's no less information. That's just it. So I'm actually a big advocate of leaving this blank. And then what we do is we go on to the additions tab. Now, in the additions tab, now commonly you're going to have a couple different things, right? We're going to have potentially, if we have a managed an RMM tool hooked up, we're going to have things like managed workstations, managed servers that are going to be syncing over here. So in fact, we're going to grab, just so we would see what this typically may look like. So we're going to say managed server. We're going to say there's 3 of those, and we're going to say the price is, let's say $250 each. Now in here, we can put in whatever we want for our description, which does make that easier for the client. It also gives them somewhat of a breakdown. We're also going to add in our workstation. So we're going to say managed workstation. Perfect. And we're going to say that they have 35. Let's make it 75 workstations, and we'll say that we charge them 55 per piece. So again, we can update these. Now, what this does is this starts to give us that breakdown and also starts to give us our total amount. Now, what's going to happen on here is you're going to see this is what the next invoice amount is for. Here's our parameters, which is an unlimited hours-based agreement. If we do need to see how many hours were used, we can always use our agreement reconciliation, put in some dates, we can get some information, and we can break that down. But this is going to be your common setup for an agreement. Now, the last piece to this is the actual monthly invoice, right? So the way that invoicing works for agreements is it goes by the billing cycle, not the date here and not the date here, which is the billing start date. It goes by the cycle. So in this case, this is monthly, meaning that if I come over into our finance area, and I'm going to go into our invoicing screen, and I'm going to click onto our agreement invoicing and just hit our search to see what's available. So we've got a couple of different things in here, but here is our most recent one, our Bones Brigade. Now, you'll see what happens if I take this through date and I push this to the 1st of February and hit search. Now you see our Bones Brigade is in there twice. The reason for that is each month. Now you notice it does not care what the date is, it cares what the billing cycle is. This second invoice up here, the second date is the date of the invoice. So if I made this invoice, if I created both of these invoices right now, the invoice date, which would be February 11th, that's going to kick off for our billing term. So 30 days from today, March 11th, well, with leap year and with short year, but March 30 days out is going to be when that's going to actually be due. So coming back into our agreement in here, that's what the billing cycle looks for. Now, if you want to see the invoice in general, you can create it directly from the agreement itself. We're going to do that real quick right now. Let's see. And then we can click here to view it. Now, this is what the agreement invoice looks like internally. If I want to see what the client's going to potentially see, I'm going to simply pull this up. Now, the reason that I'm an advocate for the additions and having those additions break it down, and we could have added a lot of different other ways to break that down as well. There's some other tips and tricks that we'll look at. But if we break that down, then you're going to see that we have breakdown of the quantity, the price. Even if we wanted to do a flat charge, I know that there are some customers out there that still do a flat charge, so a monthly amount of $2,500. What I would do is I would create a product called Monthly Managed Services, put a quantity of one, put in our $2,500, however that's broken down so that we can actually see what that's going to look like. So high-end, kind of a top-down approach. Here's all the different things, the ins and outs of agreements. Please, if you have questions or see some other expansions on any of these topics that I looked at today, please let us know, and we would be happy to cater some videos towards some of the questions and some of the responses that we get. So please leave your response and comments in the section below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much.